Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating psychological phenomenon, the psychology of solitude. Now, what if I told you that spending time alone isn't automatically a sign that you're lonely? Actually, it's quite the opposite. Some of history's absolute greatest thinkers, inventors, and leaders all shared one very surprising habit. They intensely valued being alone. So, why do highly intelligent people actively choose to fly solo? And honestly, what do they know that the rest of us might be missing? Let's jump in and find out.
Okay, to really get this, let's contrast two completely different Friday night vibes. Picture person one. They're out, shouting over blast your eardrums music in a massive crowd. Everyone's got their phones out, trying to talk, trying to laugh, basically just desperate to be noticed, right? Now, totally flip that. Look at person two, sitting totally alone, totally at peace, deep into a good book, or maybe jotting down ideas in a notebook, just thinking about the future. Society almost always tells us that the first person is the happy one, and the second person is just, well, sad and lonely. But as we'll see, appearance can be super deceiving.
Which brings us to section 1, solitude versus loneliness. There's a crucial difference here. So here's the absolute foundational psychological difference we need to grasp. Loneliness? That is the pain of feeling disconnected from others. It's a negative state, and usually it's completely involuntary. Nobody wants to feel lonely. But on the flip side, solitude is the peace of actually enjoying your own company. It's a deliberate, intentional choice. Psychologists have found that a lot of highly intelligent people don't avoid crowds because they dislike people. Not at all. They just really truly understand the immense, irreplaceable value of uninterrupted thinking.
And look, this brings up a pretty stark reality about modern life. In today's world, it's just endless, right? Constant notifications, nonstop conversations, distractions everywhere. True silence has become incredibly rare. And, just like anything else, rare things are incredibly valuable. Intelligent people actively carve out this quiet time because they need to protect their mental space in a world that is frankly overwhelmingly noisy.
Moving right along to section 2, the power of deep thinking, and what happens when we finally get those uninterrupted thoughts.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed when your absolute best ideas tend to strike? Is it when you're taking a long shower and suddenly, boom, you solve that problem you've been stuck on for a week? Or maybe it's when you're just taking a quiet walk alone, or lying awake at night staring at the ceiling. Well, that is definitely not a coincidence. Psychologists call this deep thinking. When your brain isn't frantically responding to 100 texts or reacting to loud noises, it finally has the actual bandwidth to connect ideas in totally brand new ways.
There's a reason they say many of history's greatest breakthroughs didn't happen in crowded rooms. They happened in moments of quiet reflection. Seriously, silence is the catalyst. It's what allows your brain to solve complex puzzles, imagine wild new possibilities, and just create totally original ideas. Intelligent people aren't trying to escape the real world. They are actively entering a space where their very best, most innovative thinking actually happens.
And this mindset, it completely applies to relationships too. It is the classic battle of quantity versus quality. Think about it. Modern society loves to measure popularity by sheer quantity, like how many followers do you have or how many acquaintances can you pack into a room. But highly intelligent people, they invest in quality. They're looking for a few deep, highly meaningful relationships. Honestly, one real conversation with a genuine friend is going to add way more long-term value to your life than spending 5 hours in a packed room with people who don't even really know you.
Let's transition to section 3, protecting your mental energy. This is all about guarding your focus. Think of your brain like a smartphone battery. You wake up, it's at 100%, right? But throughout the day, every single ping from a notification, every pointless argument online, every hour you spend doom scrolling, and just the general meaningless noise, each of those takes a massive chunk out of your battery. By the time evening rolls around, you are completely drained, and you haven't even done anything physical. Mental energy is a strictly limited resource, and intelligent folks are intensely protective of where they spend it. This is exactly why they guard their time like a hawk. They would 1,000,000 times rather spend just 1 hour deeply focused, maybe learning a cool new skill, than lose 3 whole hours to just meaningless noise. They actively dodge constant distractions because they know something crucial. Focused attention is a non-renewable resource. Once you spend that cognitive energy, it is gone for good. You literally never get it back.
I love this metaphor. Think about a super calm lake. It's the perfect way to picture the mind. When the surface of the water is perfectly still, you can see the reflection clear as day. But toss a single stone in or add a gust of wind, and instantly everything becomes blurry and distorted. Well, your mind works the exact same way.
When your head is just constantly filled with other people's opinions and chatter, it completely crowds out your own inner creativity. Silence lets your thoughts finally settle down, so the patterns become clear and your ideas can actually connect.
And you know what? This focus builds some serious emotional maturity, especially when it comes to making decisions. When the crowd makes a choice, their first question is almost always, well, what will others think? And the outcome? They just end up pleasing people. But when an intelligent person makes a decision, they stop and ask, is this actually the right thing to do? The result is that they live authentically, by their own values. Getting totally comfortable with being alone frees you from the trap of making choices just to fit in. You end up living for your purpose, not for your popularity score.
But let's be real, choosing this kind of independent path definitely causes some friction. Quiet people deal with so many unfair judgments. Society often just assumes they're arrogant or maybe unfriendly, or people even think that quiet folks believe they're somehow superior. But honestly, the reality is way simpler than that. They just genuinely enjoy peace and quiet, and they'd much rather have meaningful personal growth than suffer through exhausting small talk.
Because here's the absolute truth. Silence doesn't always mean someone has nothing to say. Sometimes, it just means they've figured out that not every single thought needs to be spoken out loud. The wisest people out there usually listen way more than they speak. By just quietly observing and processing things, they're actually understanding far more about the world around them than most people even realize.
All right, let's move into Section 4, Discovering Your True Self. This is the ultimate freedom.
I want to ask you a deeply personal question, right here, right now. Just think about this for a second. Who are you when nobody else is watching? It's a heavy question, right? But it's so powerful because it shines a spotlight on just how much we subconsciously change ourselves just to fit in. We tweak our opinions to match our friend group, or we pretend to love a trend we actually can't stand, all just to chase a little bit of approval.
So what does solitude actually do? Well, it strips all of that away. When you are entirely by yourself, there is zero audience to impress. There are absolutely no expectations to meet. The pressure to pretend, it's just gone. And what you're left with is the real stuff, your own true thoughts, your own deep values, and your genuine dreams. This quiet, empty space is exactly where real self-discovery actually kicks off.
And guys, this is the real secret to emotional resilience. It's a process. First, you face your failures and rejections head on, without the noise. Second, you learn how to just not panic when you're by yourself. And third, you start deriving your confidence entirely from within, not from external approval or how many likes you got on a post. Getting truly comfortable in your own company builds this unshakable emotional armor that you need to weather life's inevitable letdowns. Suddenly, your happiness isn't being remote controlled by other people.
Now, we have to draw a hard line here because this is key. Loneliness says, I need someone to complete me. But solitude? Solitude says, I enjoy my own company, and I choose relationships that make my life even better. Look, humans are social creatures by nature, and having healthy relationships is absolutely essential. But it's all about that healthy balance. If you can't stand your own company, you're going to spend your entire life desperately searching for someone else to fill a void that, honestly, only you can understand.
At the end of the day, growth happens in silence. Character is built in silence. And dreams, they are created in silence. The rest of the world usually only shows up to celebrate the final shiny success, but they rarely see those quiet, solitary hours that actually made it all possible. And that is exactly why highly intelligent people do not fear being alone. They know it is the quiet workshop where their absolute best selves are forged. Which brings me to one final question I want to leave you with today. The next time you find yourself totally alone, are you going to sit with your thoughts, or are you going to immediately reach for your phone to escape the quiet? I really challenge you to consciously embrace that silence. Don't rush to escape it. Sit with yourself, ask the tough questions, because your strongest, most intelligent self might just be waiting for a moment of quiet to finally step forward. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.